Welcome to this workshop, Flexbox and Grids. Yeah. I don't know if there are many students online by Zoom. Do you hear me clearly? I can see the chat, so. Okay, no, then I'll just start again. Welcome. First, small introduction. I am Yannick van der Roket. I work now almost 11 years for Access. Front-end Java developer, mostly front-end developer. These are my credentials. Yeah, mostly I do different projects as consultant. Momentarily I work at Jonderland, maybe more known as Adventure. It's retail. Hello. Hi, good morning. Hack Your Future, yeah, it's a great initiative. They asked me to do a workshop, two actually. The first one today, Flexbox and Grids. The second one in 2 weeks, it's more basic. Then I'll see probably other faces. Yeah, I think we'll just go in it. Then, yeah, a bit of table of contents. Yeah, first we're going to start with Flexbox because it's already longer in web development. Then you're going to be watching it Grid. Small recap. We're going to, you notice my native language isn't English. I'm going to compare those two a bit, when to use when, and then a small wrap up. Yeah, Flexbox. Who already has worked with Flexbox? Or okay, most people, I think. Yeah, I hope it won't be too easy then. Yeah, Flexbox. This one. Yeah, Flexible Box Module is the actual name. Since it's all in the name, Flexible Box Model. Block and inline. This is a different one, a flexible one. And then module. This means it's not one single property in CSS. It's actually multiple properties which combines is a module. They all work together. It's a one-dimensional layout model, which means you can deal with one layout, in row or column. So maybe a bit unclear at the moment, but you'll see. And why is this in CSS? Yeah, it offers space distribution and powerful alignment capabilities. In the early days of HTML, CSS, when you want to make a layout, you had to depend on tables a very long time ago, then floats. Then there was a grid system. Now we have Flex, which is more powerful. Maybe the joke everyone reads how to center something in the middle of a div of a container. Flexbox will fix this. We'll see later. Let's see. A bit of terminology before I give a demo of all the capabilities. Is it clear? I don't entirely think. Yeah, can you read? And also the blue? There's blue. No, actually, the most important ones are the red ones. You have the main axis and the cross axis. Yeah. Yeah. You have the container, which is the gray part, and then it consists out of flex items, flex container. Yeah, you have the main axis and the cross. You will see in certain cases the main axis isn't always the vertical one or the horizontal one. And the cross axis it depends on how do you define it. Yeah, and on the main size and cross size. Okay. Then I'll have to go to my browser. Some demos. I think that is much easier. Just go. My notes, very important. Not here. Good. Okay, first one we have here just a container. See here in the HTML, just a container with lots of divs. Actually, this is one of our. Took this example from my current project. This is just the main navigation from the website. A bit toned down. No links, just divs. And then we'll start with div, with flex. As you can see, regular CSS. Yeah, the orange part. Yeah, normally it's orange. Yeah, this is default. Every div, it's a block element, so it's stapled below each other. When you go to flex, you see one div already. There you go. They set everything in a row. This is by default. There's also inline block, inline flex. This isn't as used as much. It's just the same. What you see, the container is just inline. Yeah, the yellow part is a container for, and items are the one with the black border. I set this out. See that it's just this is just for visibility purposes. So in the when you say display flex, you see it takes the whole space, available space in of the browser, and it enables a flex context for all its children. That is actually the divs are now in a flex context, which we'll see now. So yeah, by default they go in a row. Then you have another property, flex direction. You can set this in column. They will go to the default phase. It's not the same actually as a normal one because it's still in a flex context, but from the first sight it looks the same as no flex context. Then you can also do row reverse. Then it will go from right to left. In some countries where they're reading right to left. There's this one the solution. Then of course column reverse from bottom to top. I don't know where that's. Mostly it's visual. For example, in a chat or something. on a browser, the new messages will maybe go at the bottom, and on mobile they'll appear above, something like that. Yeah, this is well, yeah, much used in a responsive web design context, because yeah, a browser, yeah, just desktop. These have white screens most of the time. Some crazy people turn it 90 degrees. I don't know why. Most of the time you have a landscape, then you have much screen estate in the horizontal screen. Mobile, it's more the yeah, portraits. So let's see. Yeah. Also to note, if you use the reverse ones, this isn't very good for accessibility because screen readers always read from top to bottom. The DOM, here you're gonna visually turn them upside down, and yeah, it's not recommended for just visual purposes. Actually, it's recommended only for visual purposes, not for content. Right. I'll leave this now to the default row. Yeah, as I mentioned before, you have lots of alignment capabilities. This one is justify content. It's a bit hard. Like this. So I can see the screen better. Yeah, you have many different things. Yeah, the default is flex start. This means the content will always be on the start line at the left. Then you have flex end. It will align to the right side. This isn't the same as a row reverse. The row reverse actually reverses the content. Brent and other stuff was on this side, and this was item 1, item 2. Here is actually alignment to the right. And we have the center in the middle, and then maybe the most powerful ones, space between. This will set the first and the last item to the borders, and will the remaining screen of the remaining width will be divided by all between all the different items. Then you have space around. It's a bit of the same, but they also set some spacing before and after. This is one part of this is one part, and this is 2 parts. And space evenly. It's actually the same, but now it's this one part, one part, one part, one part, etc. Yes, if you do some research, maybe you already have done it. You probably will see also start, end, left or right. These also exist, but they are not yet supported in many browsers. In Grid, you have the same property. The same property exists in Grid, but yeah, like start, and it's instead of introducing a grid start or a grid end, yeah, they just went for start and end. But yeah, this already exists, so maybe in the future this prefix will go away, but now they'll recommend it. For grids, you can you can use this one with the prefix. I don't know. This is all a bit visualized. Flex start, flex end, center, space between. Okay. I'm gonna make my container a bit bigger. Okay, now it's my containers a bit bigger. When you have such a case, you can also use align items. By default, this is stretch. Stretch. You see this because it takes the whole height of the container or items. You can also flex start here. Then it will go to the top. Yeah, flex ends. And then we have also center. So if you want to center something in a div, this is a solution. Thank you, class dismissed. It's a question everyone asks. And then also you have a baseline. This is not so clear now. You see all the text is now aligned with each other. If you have different font sizes, well, align on the baseline of the text. Center, let's see. Yeah. You'll see that it's center of the container. Turn this a bit too big. Okay. If you have we've now set this to center. If you want to make an exception for example, activewear. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So continue. You have seen these selectors, right? And child? No, it's no, yeah, it's actually now I'm selecting the 6th element from my in container we have direct children. These are my divs, and I'm gonna select the 6th one in the list. If I counted correctly, it was activewear. We shall see if I'm correct. Yeah, activewear. Yeah, you can override everything on the level of the child. What we said here, align item center. If I want this one to go to the bottom, I will align self to the. You shall see it's the yeah. For justify content, this one doesn't exist because you can just do child. Same now. It's not pink. See the difference? I want this one at the end. I can just do margin left auto, let's go to the end. If I do the 8 elements, then you'll see everything behind this will go to the end. So align self only in the only one in Flexbox. Just so now we're back to our default. See, yeah. You see that the items will take the size of their content. If you go smaller, it will always take the smallest words in the in the item. See? But we can set so you must go and set on the children. Let's grow. One. You see the remaining space of the container will now be divided between different between the items. So you have the complete length of the screen. But if you go smaller, it will go back into default. You see. Actually, a bit like a space between, but now the space will go into the item. I set this to 1. By default, this is no. No, not cool. 1. If I want, for example, woman to stand out more, or maybe a larger container item, should have removed that one. Child. Number 3, I think, yeah. I can do flex grow, for example, 2. You see, it's got more spacing. This is actually, again, one part here, one part here, one part of the free space go into this flex item, one part. You can, as far as you want, it's actually, if you take the sum of all the flex row you take, it will divide them like that. Yeah, we also have something flex shrink. It's a bit of the same, but shrinking. Some items you want to shrink more than others. Okay. Let's see. The first one, flex shrink. Here default is 1, so I set this higher. Normally, builds and other stuff will go much, will shrink much faster. Yeah, it's not very clean. Yeah, it's not as it's not used as much. So actually, it's when you see it, it's I think it's more like an error or something they tried and forgot to leave out. But yeah, for the sake of the workshop, I'll explain it. Yeah. Just comment these out for later. This one also. Yeah. Now we have all our items fit on the screen. So if you go to smaller screens like mobile, by default, Flex always tries to keep them on one line. If it's a row or column, it always tries to be. It always keeps that in one line. But when you have lots of content like here, in smaller screens, I have a scroll bar at the bottom, but you can see it right away. Therefore, you can use Flex Ref. So automatically sets the next one to following line. Use that with Flex Scroll. You see, rep, the default, like I mentioned before, no rep. And then rep reverse. This will do the same, but the items will go on top instead of below the previous line. Also here, accessibility, not so great. Maybe for pictures or something like if you want something to build with lots of pictures, this is very handy. Maybe a Pinterest flow can go below each other. Okay. You have Flex Rep. Then you have Flex Flow. Actually, this is just shorthand for Flex Direction and Flex Rep. I will do column new rep, for example. Why is it working? Oh, flow, flex. Right. Maybe another example. Do row. Right. We have this one. Yeah, actually, that's it for the most part. Flexbox. I think did I forget something? So yeah, this was an overview of all the things you can of all the properties. Normally we'll build something more exciting like this. What's this? We have here a simple layout, header, navigation content. So this, for example, Flex. For this example, I want the navigation on top. Header here, and these items we will align to the right side. Display Flex. You see this go, it will turn our page into rows. This is normal because by default, Flex will go in, will make rows. So Flex Direction. back to the column. So we go for navigation of minimath. Flex direction, or we want this to align on the right side. Like the which one? Yeah. Which property do we need to use here? Someone? Justify content. Which one? Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. So we'll do some spacing between them. We don't want to use here space between or something, because we want to align it on the right side, but keep it on the right side, not to align them over the page. So we will just do some do correct. This is what happens if you type QWERTY on a Z keyboard. So. Okay. Yeah, the selector Ali, not last child. Actually, I'm selecting everyone, but not the last child. So just the first two. Then we'll do a merge right of pixels. Now, we want header below the navigation. Anyone has an idea? I haven't mentioned it before in a previous demo. What?
Is switch the order in the HTML?
Yeah, but imagine we have this HTML from the backend team. We're not allowed to change that. It happens. No, actually, we also have a property called order. So I'll main header. Yeah. By default, this is 0 for everyone. So if I'll put main header 1, oh, it's going down because this by default all these items have order 0. 1 is above, so you want them. This one on top will do just -1. Plus navigation is this one, minimath. Okay. Okay. I don't know how long I've already been talking. Half an hour. Okay. We'll do some few simple exercises. Or maybe I'll go over the properties very quick. Display, flex, inline flex, flex direction, just if you have questions, I have to fix that one. I hear something.
رشة ملح صغيرة كثير، نص ملعقة صغيرة. ايش بدي كمان؟ ملعقة كبيرة خميرة. بدي مية دافية. أهم شيء قبل
Maybe just type in the chat if you have a question, and I'll repeat the question. Okay, no. Specify content, line items, line content. Align content, we haven't seen that one. We have seen justify content, but not align content. We need to go to another folder for that one. Boxes. Wait. Yeah. To make more boxes. Yeah, like mentioned before, it keeps them on one single line. It's like visual effects. Yeah, it keeps all the items on one row. So we do here let's wrap. Let's wrap. This is the best example.
The second
What?
The second boxes.
Yeah, no, it's I think let's go to the first one with different text. Okay. Doesn't do anything. Why isn't it? Oh, hides. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That is in the previous one. Okay. Now you see, maybe this is a bit easy to see. Inspector. Like this. Helper. You see that this items are divided equally. I have set the width of 40 view heights, and they have 3 rows. So they will divide the remaining space over the 3 rows. By default, yeah, normally this is stretch. See, so we divide like this. But if you do flex start, it will lose their height, the item. But let's see. Now what's the problem? Line items. Oh, well, this is correct. Pickup of code pen. They will go to the start of the different actually lines or rows. Then you have something like align content. You can actually go just like before. You want it on top or the space between. It will divide the different on top, on the bottom, and in the center. In this case, we make it a bit smaller. Just the 2 ones. This only works, or yeah, this property only has effect when you use flex wrap set to wrap or wrap reverse. Okay, forget that one. So yeah, gap, row gap, column gap. I preview my example with layout. Between the different items, I used just a margin. Since the introduction of grids, we also have gap, row gap, and column gap. In grid, this has more advantages than in Flexbox, but many people already use this one. Yeah, actually, it does the same. Here. When I set a gap of 10 pixels, to automatically set here, yeah, 10 pixel gap. And also between the rows. This way you can create somewhat of a grid layout. There's a difference, yeah, row and column gap. Yeah, first one is between the rows, then between the columns, or you can use actually also gap column. Column 20 pixels. Column gap, sorry. Like so. Yeah. One note here, gap for Flexbox isn't yet supported in all major browsers. No, wait, I'll rephrase that. The older browsers, gap won't work. Internet Explorer, earlier versions of Edge, this won't work. Also, the main reason not to use it is also in a few older versions of Safari on mobile. It's also not supported yet. In the new Safari it is, but you see, yeah, at Last Adventure, I was also saying to introduce this one because it's much more inventive than margins. But yeah, in the statistics, our users were lots of users which still used yeah, older Safari versions of mobile. So there we just went with margin. But in the near future, we can use gap. But more on this maybe on the grid later. Some future-proof. Yeah, this was all this previous properties were for the around the container and for on the children, yeah, order, which I shown previous. Yeah, flex grow, flex shrink. And this ability to flex to shrink if necessary. Flex basis. Yes. So sure. Flex basis. For example, I want the just 4 items on top, and then below. Actually, I want to create a grid of with flex. 4 by 4. I think I have 12 items. I can do flex basis, 25%. This will set the. I've set this on all the items. See. This will set the item to 25%. We'll go there together. Because it's here a margin of 10 pixels. Yeah, you see, it won't take in account that I have 25% plus 10 plus 10 plus 10 from the margins. This will create a wrap right here. And that's where gap excels more. If I do now gap 10 pixels. Oh, no, wait, that's great. So I have to do something on this. 25% minus, how much was it? For 30 pixels. Oh, 10 pixels. Divided by 4. And then basically max, I have to do this. And normally this will should work. Did I do something? Why isn't this working? I think I had one too many of this. You see why I did this? Yeah, I have to turn my get back. Actually, we with gap it only sets 10 pixels between the items. So margin will set margin around the item. So also on the front item. Gap knows, is aware of the other items in your flex container. It only sets something between the different items. Because I said we are setting 25%, so 4 in a row. With that in mind, we actually do 3 times 10 pixels. And then we divide it to 4 because we have 4 items to set the correct, what did I say? Do you know the calc CSS function? No? Okay. I'll take it. I'll explain it. Yeah, calc is actually for calculate, where in the early days, we all had to calculate everything by ourselves. But then responsive came, and with all the differences there, then they introduced the calc function. Actually, you see it says CSS function because because you have parentheses. Okay, by the use of the parentheses, like backgrounds. Maybe background URL is also a CSS function because you have to set a URL, and then they will know calc. Yeah. Before calc came, yeah, you had SCSS or SAS. That you saw SAS, no? No, not yet. Okay. Yeah, then I'll explain calc. Actually, it will calculate such things. Yeah, you can use simple things like yeah. Yeah, this will do. The layout is more visible. So when you have height, you can now, for example, do calc 100 view height. Actually, it's a screen size minus, and then you'll have a header of, for example, 90 pixels height. You can do something like this. Yeah, the header is a bit larger. Let's see. How large is it? 44 plus. $44 and 40. Normally, but there's also margin. Yeah. Wait, I'll go to another. I'll go back to the layout. Will be something more. So spacing. Okay. Let's take a large part of the screen, and the header must be must also be visible. You see the header here has size of. I'm going to set this fixed. Header. Height of 100 pixels. And I want the content to take the rest of the screen, and the footer will disappear below here. So you always have to scroll.
Is it the screen or the window?
View height, yeah, no, it's a window. Yeah, so okay, yeah, that's the view height. So let's see. The height is, let's calculate 100 view height. That's yeah, the height of the window minus 100 pixels. You'll see there's some. I think it takes this also into account. Yeah, it's for responsibility issue problems to solve like this. You can use this one like 100%. When you have to calc in yeah. Yeah, it's actually to calculate. It's very hard when you have a fixed sidebar of, let's say, 25 pixels, 250 pixels. It was very hard to calculate the rest of the state screen. With calc, you can use actually, yeah, 100% minus. You can do the calculations in a browser. You don't have to do them yourself anymore. Yeah. It's yeah. as I was mentioning, SAS, it's an extended thing of CSS. There you can also do calculations, but when you compile this one, the result is in the compiled CSS. But it was it also enough for a few cases where you have to depend on percentages or view heights. It's very hard to calculate. Yeah, no, you can use it for every sizing unit. Yeah. Small intermezzo. Just for flex basis, it's also very useful if you want to make a grid. Flex. It's all in one shorthand. No, for flex grow, flex shrink, and flex basis combined. This you'll see a lot more. I prefer to do everything, set everything apart separately because it's more readable. Because some things aren't necessary or to set, and then it's a bit confusing sometimes. Online stuff. Okay. Literature. These are some a few handy links. This is the concept. This will explain everything what I said actually. Maybe if I wasn't clear, this one is a good one. CSS tricks, a guide to Flexbox. Let's see, where is it opening? Nowhere. Just more visible. It's like the same like before. This is the go-to for many developers who are working for Flex, just because it's visible. If you and then maybe Flexbox Froggy. This is some gamification to to practice this one. Like this one, we have to set it like this. Flex direction to column. You know, justify or align. Let's just align. That's insane. And then you can go to the next level. This is a good start to practice. Settings you can do beginner, intermediate, expert. Maybe this is a fun exercise to do. And then the other ones I'll put on later or something. So is that an idea? Okay. Flexboxfroggy.com. You can go there and then I'll do this as exercise. If you want to make it, you can set beginner or intermediate.
Maybe intermediate. Guys, let's go.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, see, already talked an hour, and we have to do grid, so maybe here a few minutes, or and then we'll go to the grid, or I don't know, because maybe some will get to the end in time, but I don't know. Okay. Okay, and then the exercise maybe for later, and okay.
You can practice something for extra 7 minutes.
I'll get some coffee.
Start recording. Okay. Yeah, sorry if you didn't have much time for the exercise, but it's so grid. Yeah, what is grid? It says as grid layout. You know, grid is actually you can compare it with Microsoft Excel. We have lines and rows, so it's two-dimensional. Yeah. This is maybe for CSS grids an important definition: set of intersection of horizontal and vertical lines, which defines columns and rows. We'll see this later. Features fixed and flexible track sizes, item placement, and alignment control. Not as good as in Flexbox, the alignment control, but maybe the exercises I prepared, this was more visible. But yeah, I hope this will we will see in the demo. Bit of terminology, because when I speak, we're all on the same page for that one. Grid container, just a container, and then the grid item, just like Flexbox, you have a flex container and a flex item. This will be should be clear by now. Then yeah, in the grids, yeah, grid line. This one is a vertical one. You have also horizontal lines. Grid track is actually the space between two lines. This one is between two horizontal lines, but you have a track like this one. It's a vertical track. Grid area, actually between different it applies to multiple lines, more of an area. And then the grid cell between just one cell. And this is later. I'll do my demo. Leave page. Then I'll have to take my notes. Again, we have the same one here. Where are my notes? We start just like Flexbox, display grid. Nothing happens. This is because we don't have applied a grid yet. That's one of the first differences between Flexbox and grid. Flexbox will set things automatically, like everything in a row, etc. Grid won't. We actually have to create our own grid by this. How do we do that? One way to do this is set actually a template, grid template columns, and then I'll set 100 pixels, 100 pixels, and grid template rows of 40 pixels. Let's see. You see, now we have somewhat that looks like a grid. That's because the lines aren't visible. When I go to my inspector, I'm using Firefox because for demo purposes, this one is a bit clearer than the one in Chrome. Chrome also has it, but this one is much more visible. You see here, I have created my grids. So I'm gonna Yes, okay. Yeah, Firefox will also set, draw the grid here. I have now a 2x2 grid created because I've here made 2 columns, each one of 100 pixels, and 2 rows, each one of 40 pixels. I'll change this one to 60 pixels. You will see the second row will get larger. And of course, I'll set just a border here because when I'll save, it also always loses this. So set a border here. So my grid. Yeah, you see the items are here stuck together. So like mentioned before, we can here use gap. To make it a bit more clear. Yeah, also, regarding gap, sometimes you will see also grid column gap or grid row gap. This is old syntax. This will work, but now it's more preferred to use the one without the prefix of grid, because it's also now you can use it in Flexbox as well. And to remove the where you won't need the prefix. Okay. Yeah. Now we set the width, fixed width of 100 pixels. In responsive design, modern web, this isn't approved as much used anymore. So we can set here like before the 25 pixels. 25 pixels per percentage. If you add here an extra, then we'll make a grid of 4. One more. Yeah, you see it right here. Yeah. As you see, normally I have a padding here. We'll turn the gap to 14, and you'll see. But because I've set 25%, so it takes the size of the window, 25% of the window. And the gap, you see, we have a scroll bar at the bottom. This is not what we want. Therefore, in grids, they have a new sizing unit, or actually more of a fraction unit. When you say one fraction, to be clear, 50%, for example. Where is it? 13. Okay. Fraction. This is a new sizing unit. Yeah, actually, it's like mentioned before, in like the space between, it takes actual fractions. When there is a width, which isn't fraction, but actually defined width, let's say, of 50%, it will take the 50% of the width, and then the remaining space will be divided between the fractions. The fractions also take the gap into account. This is also in the calculation. You'll know, okay, we have 50%, then 40%, 40%, 40 pixels. I mean, 40 pixels. And then the remaining space will be divided between the three fractions. This will make it very easy to make it responsive, as you can see. It will never go off screen or grid that way. Is this one clear? Yeah.
What you said is common to use this kind of relative units like fraction or percentages than using media queries, for instance.
Yeah.
But that's more recommended.
Actually, a general rule is actually yeah, media queries. You can define everything. Yeah, you can, but it's not recommended. Media queries are mostly defined. You have a desktop screen, you have a tablet screen, but for desktop screens, there are also lots of different sizes. Media queries, you can. I think it's more common to use media queries for the different screens. Actually, the different devices, because you have to do another design for mobile than for desktop, and then you have to, yeah, mostly mobile design is very different from desktop design. I recommend actually more like this fraction, because we will see this will work. But if you go to mobile, the items, now it's small content, then we will go use, we will mostly. Sorry. If you go smaller, then you will probably make a grid of 2 instead of 4, or for example, and then you'll have to use the media queries.
That's why I'm asking, because this way it's way more practical.
Yeah.
But then if you have to rewrite inside a media query every time, it's very time consuming. But this is, but I can imagine at some point it's going to be both, I guess.
Yeah, mostly it's the fixed size. The most common I see is the size of an iPhone. If it's larger, then it's considered a tablet, and then you have an iPad, and then the size, then it's desktop. That's the most common ones for media queries. Yeah. Is this clear? Fraction units? Yeah. Okay. No. Okay, I'll set more. This is encoding. It's a nice skill to have, but not very effective for the moment. So now I have 12 items. I want to make, for example, a grid of 12, 12 on 2. Instead of actually setting here 12 times fraction, which is very hard to count if you have to debug from why it's not working. So they also have a new CSS function called repeat. You can just type repeat, the amount of how many columns, this columns, and then the fraction or the width. And then something smaller. Now I have 12, grid of 12. Because so can set it to 6. You can go very crazy with that one. For example, 1 fraction and then 2 fractions. which will take the double the size of one fraction. You can do things like this. Yes. Yeah, this one is clear, right? It's not rocket science, this one. But there are other things. So I will set this back to 6. Yeah, okay. For your question again, responsive design. As you can see, yeah, items get very small. So maybe we want to take a minimum width. So we can set like this. This is another CSS function, min-max. It only works in grids. Then you can set the minimum of 200 pixels and a maximum of 1 friction. Yeah, okay. So you will see if it's if you encounter 100 pixels, it will make it smaller, and then you'll get a scroll bar. But this way you can set a minimum width for the content.
The minimum will be 100 pixels.
Okay, repeat that.
The minimum will be 100.
Yeah. Yes. Maybe this is clear. Let's 22. Yeah. It's 100%. You see? Pixels. And the last one. Yeah, responsive. If you get smaller like this, we set it to 200. You see, yeah, it is semi responsive. We have a property called autofit, which you can set in the repeat. Autofit. What's the problem here? Template columns. Min-max. Oh yeah, okay. So we set our min-max to 200 pixels in 1 fraction. See it will take the whole space. Screen state, that's because of the 1 fraction. When you go smaller, I've set it to 200 pixels the minimum. If we go smaller than 200 pixels, you see item 6 will go to the next line. So now we have a bit of a responsive grid. We also have autofill. Autofit will always take the reals, the screen state. If you have autofill, it works similar, but it's a bit different. This one. It's hard to see. The difference between the two out of fit will take the fraction always into account. It will always take the full screen state out of fit. When he sees if there's more screen states than the minimum we've defined here, is if there is 200 pixels available, they will already reserve that space for if there is a new item coming. You see, this you can see how much this 217. If I go smaller, here it will get to the threshold of 200 pixels. Then it will take the rest of the screen states divided by the other items, and this sixth one will go to actually to the next line. See the difference? Is it clear? Because I know it's but I have to go faster a bit. So if you have questions, ask me later or through Slack or something. Okay. Yeah, this is the basics defining a grid. Now I have to go to another one. This was a good example. Actually, we're gonna. I hope we have enough time. We're gonna make this one. You see, it's a typical grid. Actually, not so typical because we go over different. We'll start here. Minimize not the JavaScript for me. So we start with defining the grid. You see here we have does anyone see 4 columns, 2 rows exactly? So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 in 2 rows. So we're going to define that one. I'm already going to set a gap because it's also in the design. Okay, as you see, we're going to go. We'll be using fractions because it will take the whole screen all divided equally. So, grid template columns, repeat 4 times, 1 fraction. I'm not explicitly setting the rows because our grid is working automatically. If there are more items than there are columns, they will set it to the next row. So you don't have to define them explicitly. This is what we call actually if you set it explicitly, then you have an explicit grid, and then you have an implicit grid. Hopefully more later. Okay. Then back to the design. You see we have here 2 large, larger items. The first one and the 5th one, yeah. But you see in the design is the 4th one. In the code is the 4th one. There is a reason for it will get clear later. So I'm going to set testimonial. The child's. We're going to explicitly set this one between different sizing columns. Then we're going to we're explicitly going to place them. How do you do it? When you go to the, if you target this one through CSS, you can get set grid column start and grid column ends. If you see the design here, you have to take the lines actually. This will make it more clear. We're going to set the first item from the first line to the third line. So we're going to set here first 1, and then here 3. You'll see it's sets that item over 2 different tracks between line 1 and 2. Now for the fourth one. You see, this will take line 2 to 4. Line 2. Voila. It's not actually looking like the design that we're doing there. Sometimes it's just easier to set, yeah, when you don't want to have to count the line numbers. Some find it very different. I also prefer this. You can also set span to. This will start at the first line and will span over 2 columns, just like here. Yeah. It's even easier if you make something like grid call span. And a utility class. You can set just grid column span 2. Then you can actually set it in the correct testimonials. It's much easier, but I think I'll leave it for now to spare some time. Okay. Yeah, the last child. Yeah. This will set. Copy this one. 5th child. Instead of column, it will be a row. And, no, wait. We'll first set the column. Column start. This is the 4th line. 1, 2, 3, 4th line. Split column start 4. Don't have to set explicitly the end. By default, it always takes 1. You can set here grid column start 5, but it won't make a difference. Grid column start end 5 won't make a difference. Much easier is actually just the shorthand, just grid column. It will automatically set the first one. This one also like this shorthand. So it starts at line 2, and it takes at it spans 2 columns. Grid column 4. Now in the design, this one is at the top, so we're going to set grid row 1. Not exactly 5. Yes. Correct. Yeah. Or stand indeed. Like that. This is another great, yeah, big part of placing. How much time? And
It's always done. Maybe the questions right now you can ask them.
yeah, it's actually 2 parts. But one is just to make it responsive, but the other one is grid areas. Maybe very quick. It's okay. Yeah, this is one way of doing this. You have to explicitly set the lines. Now I'm gonna show you another way. In the beginning, it's a bit overwhelming. I know that. Even for me, first time. But when you get a hang of it, it's actually much easier and much more visible to do this. Okay. We have seen grid template columns and grid template rows. We have also grid template areas. Actually, you can see I've made here grid template areas. Don't forget this one. For this one, this is a bit important. You see, I have defined grid area 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You see here automatically he sets the names which I defined here to the correct grid item. Now, if you want, you can actually type this one. So 1, 1, 2, 5, 4. No, wait. 1, 1, 2, 5, 3, 4, 4. 4, 4, 5. 1, 1, 2, 5. 3, 4, 4, 5. No, not quite. But you see, he sets 1, 1, 2, 5. He already draws the correct grids which we defined here. Therefore, you see it by the larger lines here. Yeah. So how can we fix this? You have to define the grid name on the items. So go testimonial. Child number 1. I'm gonna copy this one 5 times. Okay. Testimonial. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you can set grid area 1. You don't have to use quotes like here. It's not necessary here. Here's necessary here, don't, because between the quotes you define a row and the spaces are the columns. This one, grid area 2. When you're in a hurry, you always type wrong. One of the general rules of coding. When someone is watching. Like so. This is an easy example. It's the biggest swing here when you want to for smaller screens. If you say you only have to redefine this grid template areas. So I'm going to say that media max width of 30 AM. And testimonial grids. This one. Now I want everything below each other. Or maybe, no, we can do like something different, like this 1-1. It's 2-5. 3-5. 4-4. Yeah, with a bit of imagination because of the formatting, you see already visual, quite visual how it will turn out. It's okay, it's even smaller. You see 1-1. It's the grid on top. 2-5, 4-5, 4-4. It's you can make your website completely responsive by just modifying one property, grid template areas this way. Okay, that was it, I think, for now. Yeah, I'll leave it with this, if that's okay. Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay.
As a developer, which will you choose to work on, grid or Flexbox?
It depends on the situation. Maybe I should go to my presentation. Yeah, so the main differences: one-dimensional, two-dimensional. Flexible content first, layout first. Yeah, it depends. For example, the navigation we saw in the, I showed you in the layout. That isn't possible, for example, in Flexbox, in grid. Sorry. Yeah, it really depends. And I haven't used grid as much in projects because it's fairly new, and mostly the projects I'm working on are a few years old. So grid isn't really integrated. But while preparing this course, I saw the how do you say it, the value of grid more. I was also doing lots of development with Flexbox, with the necessary pains with that, and now grid. Maybe if a new component, I'll grab to grid if it's possible, because some things aren't possible in grid, other things aren't possible in Flexbox.
Responsive.
No, it's both very responsive. New features in CSS are always with responsiveness in mind. Want to use flexbox smaller components where alignment is important. Where the size of the content is important does not depend on other items. Yeah, like the navigation, you don't know in French, mostly of the time is a larger string. So if you set a fixed width of 100 pixels, it won't work. Yeah, that's why the size of the content is important. Yeah, and when to if you have to support older versions of Edge or E10 because grid isn't possible there. Yeah, Pinterest lookalike. You also have to do with Flexbox. Then when to use grid component, yeah, for layout and component with specific widths. I noticed when you have to define a fixed width or something, you're better off with grid. So yeah.
Any questions?
Any other questions? Yeah. You can always message me on Slack. I'll try to answer them.
Discord as well. Mostly we are using Discord, so please join us.
Okay, yeah, I'll install Discord then. Okay. Okay.
I will post this.